tonight plunged into darkness. Millions gather across North America to take in the total eclipse. Eyes on the sky.
Yes, I see it.
Nice.
For a once-in-a-generation experience.
It was like orange dot, and then it kept on growing and growing.
The science around the rare sight and the view from a zoo.
My attention was divided between the eclipse itself and the wolves.
This is about protecting our values, our sovereignty, and our north.
Plus new money for the military, but it still falls short of Canada's NATO commitment. Also, what CSIS knew and shared with the government about foreign interference from China.
Financial kind of tactics using PRC officials in Canada.
And hankering for home runs in a newly renovated home.
We're going to be as good as our star players.
Opening day for the Toronto Blue Jays at their revamped stadium.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina. Reporting tonight, Mirella Fernandez.
Good evening. Day turned into night for millions of North Americans along the route of a total solar eclipse. The moon entirely blocked out the sun in a rare and stunning event. This is the much anticipated moment so many waited to see. The Earth plunged into complete darkness as the sun slipped behind the moon. The first to experience the full eclipse, people in Mazatlan, Mexico, just after 11 a.m. It tracked into Dallas next, then Cleveland, Niagara Falls, Montreal, and Fredericton along a 6,500-kilometer diagonal path that ended in Newfoundland. For some, heavy clouds dispersed just in time to see the amazing sight. CTV's Adrian Gabriel shares the awe inspired by the alignment of sun and moon.
A celestial spectacle for the ages.
It's the most beautiful thing I have ever seen.
Millions across North America cast their gaze skyward today to soak in what for many will be a once-in-a-lifetime event. This was the view as the eclipse first made landfall near the city of Mazatlan, Mexico. From there, the solar scene charted this path of totality across a swath of North America. Standing shoulder to shoulder, eager visitors packed the world-famous tourist town of Niagara Falls, some arriving with their own creative eyewear.
We had a case of beer here in the house, and we cut the box up, and we taped the welding glass in there.
You may seal your vows with a kiss.
Nearby in Fort Erie, Ontario, one couple sealed the solar occasion with a kiss, saying "I do" to mark the special date in place and time.
I thought it was important, like a time astronomically, like a sun and the moon gathering together, so I thought it was very romantic.
Wow.
In Quebec, onlookers received an unobstructed view of the solar system in action, though across much of southern Ontario, clouds persisted. That is until right on cue, in Hamilton, Ontario, blue sky appeared. The crowds cheering in unison as the moon and sun came together as one. And the moment of totality took hold. The significance leaving many to swoon over the solar sight.
I think it was beautiful.
For the youngest, soaking in today's eclipse meant opening their minds to the universe around them.
This isn't going to be happening here again for another 120 years.
Do you think you'll be here for that one?
Probably not.
And that prompted many to make the pilgrimage.
So we flew in from BC, from British Columbia, because we weren't going to get totality there. So I thought, let's do this once in a lifetime.
Nearly as moving as the eclipse, watching friends, family, and perfect strangers gather by the thousands to share this moment and together look up in awe-inspiring wonder. Mirella.
Adrian Gabriel in Hamilton, Ontario. The eclipse may have left some people awestruck, but it left some animals a little agitated. At the Toronto Zoo, amateur scientists were keeping track of any bizarre behavior.
The wolves keep running around, which is normally not what they do, at least during the daytime.
Especially the bears, they look more lazier.
Zoo officials say they will take a little more time to study the research gathered. Researchers in New Brunswick took a different view of the eclipse, sending a telescope up to gather images. And the skies were clear for the experiment and onlookers there to witness the show. CTV's Sarah Plowman reports.
In a moment as rare and amazing as this, people knew what they were seeing was special. Every minute mattered.
Very exciting. It's like everything's changing. Look how dark it got. So I mean, it's just gonna be daylight again, you know.
The curious came from as far as California or England.
It's amazing. The most amazing thing I've ever seen. This is so awesome. It's so awesome.
Seconds later, it was over.
Bye-bye. Okay.
Yeah!
About 3 minutes and 20 seconds, but New Brunswick skies put on a spectacular celestial show.
Nothing can prepare you for that. That was just like, you know, eye-watering stuff.
It's amazing. It's almost like a religious experience to see something otherworldly like that happen.
As the eclipse began, all eyes were here, on a balloon tasked to launch a solar telescope high into the air to capture the total solar eclipse from the sky and send the images back to Earth. David Hunter was the mastermind.
Things went fabulously well. They went very well. And I'm so proud of our team and all the people who worked on this.
Watching the launch was astronaut Chris Hadfield. He told CTV News he had only seen a partial solar eclipse as a kid.
In all that time since then, have the stars aligned for me so that I could see an eclipse until today.
From the edge of New Brunswick to the tip of Cape Breton, people looked up in wonder, in awe. That solar telescope that flew high above the clouds today was disconnected from the balloon and fell into trees near Fredericton. A team has recovered it. Marilla.
Sarah Plowman in New Brunswick. The eclipse finished its race across the continent in Newfoundland and Labrador, but the skies were cloudy, obscuring the view. But what they didn't see, they felt when the temperature dropped. CTV's Garrett Berry is in Gander tonight.
Darkness in Newfoundland. The moon covers the sun and plunges Gander into a temporary night. Traffic stopped. A crowd held its breath. But for this eclipse, Mother Nature didn't quite cooperate. The sun's corona, the magic moment of complete eclipse, was blocked by heavy clouds. Still, earlier, some eclipse memories for young and old.
Yes, I see. It's right there. The moon is disappearing.
Many made the trip to this central Newfoundland town, traveling hours by bus or by car, and didn't leave totally unimpressed.
No, great experience, once in a lifetime.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to be like 81 years old, so probably won't be alive. So I was like, should come out today to Gander and see it.
In the crowd, some impressive setups for those who captured the event.
Looking forward to this a long time. Just didn't get a lot of chance to practice beforehand because there's been no sun.
And for those who've spent a lifetime studying the stars, it was pure joy at the spectacle.
It would have been great if somehow the clouds parted and we got to see the solar corona, but you know what? It got dark. You felt the temperature drop. It felt very different, like a whole new world. And this was my first total solar eclipse, so I'm still over the moon, no pun intended.
And I really have to say that despite not being able to see the corona, the energy of everyone here was still so excited and so united in witnessing this incredible celestial event that, you know, the little bit of disappointment that I had from not being able to see the corona was washed away by just how everyone felt.
It really was quite something to see how fast the darkness came and then how fast the light came again behind it. And it really did feel like a whole new day for those of us watching here in Newfoundland and Labrador. Marella?
All right, Garrett, thanks for that. Joining me now is Andrew Fazikis. He's an astronomy columnist with National Geographic and joins us tonight from Montreal. Andrew, were the skies clear enough in Montreal to get a good view of the eclipse?
We got so lucky. There were some high clouds that started rolling in around midday. Made us a little worried, but they stayed thin enough that we could enjoy every part of the eclipse, including totality. It was amazing. All the corona was visible, prominences, everything. You couldn't ask for more.
All right, so let's take a look at that long shadow from the viewpoint of the International Space Station. How long did the darkness last for people?
So depending on where you were geographically, it could last anywhere, say 30 seconds to well over 4 minutes. And that really depended on where you were along the pathway, especially if you were on the midline, the center line of the pathway, you got the full effect of multiple minutes of darkness. If you were sitting on the edge of the pathway, like most of Montreal where I was, you got anywhere from 30 seconds to 2 minutes of darkness.
All right, so not a big window. You had to really be prepared. Because when will Canada see another total solar eclipse?
Yeah, so you'll have to wait until August 22nd, 2043, and you'll have to travel to Alberta and Northwest Territories. It'll be a beautiful pathway of totality that goes almost north-south, just above Calgary itself. And after that, for those of you in maybe in big urban centers like Toronto, you're going to have to wait until the year 2144. Can you imagine that?
That I cannot. Andrew Fazekas, appreciate you joining us tonight. So the rare eclipse generated another rare event. Politicians, usually at odds, coming together.
All right, it's just a little sliver of light.
MPs put aside their differences, stepped out in Ottawa to witness the eclipse. The skies and the sea star in Canada's new defense policy revealed today. It will boost spending by billions of dollars to better patrol the Arctic under threat from China and Russia. But the new investment still falls short of NATO's target of 2% of GDP to be spent on defense. CTV's Judy Trin reports.
So if you want to just give that. Yep.
The federal government's vision for its military is one that protects Canadians from new threats emerging from climate change centered on the Arctic.
This is about protecting our values, our sovereignty, and our North.
The policy document, Our North, Strong and Free, calls for $8 billion in new investments over the next 5 years and $73 billion over the next 2 decades. As polar ice melts, the military will focus on countering Russia and China's Arctic ambitions.
These will include a new fleet of early warning aircraft, a new fleet of tactical helicopters, a network of infrastructure in the north, long-range missiles to deter threats to Canada.
Canada will also expand its submarine fleet to patrol under polar ice and strengthen its early warning system.
That will really answer what our allies are asking us to do, and it's very useful. Gives the focus to our military leaders in guiding their operations, training, and readiness.
With these new priorities, by 2029, Canada will spend $49.5 billion annually on defense. That's $20 billion more than what we're spending now. That brings us to 1.76% of GDP, but still falls short of the NATO commitment of 2%.
After 8 years of Trudeau, our military is reeling. We also have botched procurements of equipment that have cost billions of dollars to taxpayers without delivering for our troops.
But the Prime Minister points out the Liberal vision is more robust than what the Conservatives previously put forward.
The Conservatives actually had us down to 1% of GDP in 2014.
But the military needs more than just equipment. It needs to recruit at least 15,000 more troops to replenish its ranks. To do that, National Defense wants to loosen medical requirements and speed up the security clearance process. Marilla.
All right, a big job ahead, Judy. Thank you. At the public inquiry into foreign interference, we learned today that Canada's spy agency knew that China clandestinely and deceptively interfered in the last 2 Canadian elections. CTV's Mike LeCouture has more on what was shared with the government. Mike.
Marilla, the document is labeled top secret and is heavily redacted, so there are a lot of things that we don't know. But it does say the Prime Minister was briefed on foreign interference in February of 2021 and October of 2022.
The approach and the tactic of PRC is really to do some pragmatic work.
The Prime Minister's national security and intelligence advisor describing how the Chinese government acts in other countries to promote their own interest. The CSIS report was prepared after a number of media leaks. Now, other reports show how Chinese officials may have transferred $250,000 to so-called threat actors in Canada for possible foreign interference.
I knew about intel regarding financial kind of tactics using PRC officials in Canada.
Nathalie Drouin was part of a panel of 5 bureaucrats charged with monitoring threats to the 2019 and 2021 elections. The group met weekly to assess any number of intelligence reports, including a misinformation campaign directed at former Conservative Kenny Chiu. However, members of the panel said they never informed the public because it never met the threshold, and they couldn't be certain that it wasn't just normal campaign discourse.
We have to have at least some reliable information that these aren't just a bunch of Canadians having a dispute about a public policy issue.
Still, former National Security and Intelligence Advisor David Morrison says after the 2021 election, there was intelligence concerning potential interference, which was the closest thing he had seen to a smoking gun.
In this setting, I cannot say any more than is already reflected in the documents.
Questions about what the Prime Minister knew about foreign interference and when he knew it should be answered later this week, when both his Chief of Staff and Justin Trudeau himself will be testifying. Marilla?
Mike is in Ottawa tonight. Coming up, a COVID case in court. A Saskatchewan father accused of abducting his daughter during the pandemic. Plus, the view from the Vatican on gender-affirming surgery. A 32-year-old Alberta woman is facing allegations of a sexual nature involving 4 teenagers. Alexis Suter was also a volunteer for a minor hockey league. She's been pulled from that position. Suter is accused of sexual interference, sexual assault, and 4 counts of making sexually explicit material available to a child. She was the secretary of the Sundre Minor Hockey Association northwest of Calgary. They say her position never put her directly in contact with kids. A man found guilty of carrying out a brutal terrorist attack in London, Ontario, is appealing his conviction. Nathaniel Veltman was found guilty of running over 5 members of a Muslim family with his pickup truck, 2021. 4 members of the Afzal family were killed, and a young boy was seriously injured. The judge ruled Veltman committed a deliberate act of terrorism and sentenced him to life in prison. A trial's underway for a Saskatchewan father charged with abducting his own child. He's accused of taking her so she would not get vaccinated for COVID-19 during the pandemic. CTV's Alison Bamford takes us through the case.
The case goes back to November 2021, when Michael Jackson allegedly failed to return his then 7-year-old daughter to her mother, breaking a custody order and kickstarting a 3-month-long effort by RCMP to locate the father-daughter pair.
She's just as against it as I am, and I'm her father. It's my duty to protect my daughter.
While hiding from police, Jackson and his daughter appeared on a podcast, telling the host he was protecting the girl from the COVID vaccine, something her mother wanted her to get. Around the same time, RCMP issued a Canada-wide arrest warrant for Jackson, and weeks later, Mounties released this video with the mom giving an emotional plea to have the girl returned.
I'm so sorry it's taking so long for mommy to find you.
Previous court documents show the RCMP negotiated with Jackson through a third party during the investigation, and in late February 2022, officers finally located him and the girl in a Walmart parking lot in Vernon, BC, 1,600 kilometers from his Saskatchewan home. Jackson pleaded not guilty and is representing himself during the 2-week jury trial. His ex-wife, the girl's mother, is expected to testify as one of several Crown witnesses. Alison Bamford, CTV News, Regina.
Straight ahead, he once took responsibility for getting Roe v. Wade overturned. Tonight, Donald Trump clarifies his position on abortion. Benjamin Netanyahu reaffirms the Israeli military will invade Rafah, where more than 1 million Palestinians have sought shelter from the war. The Israeli Prime Minister says a date has been set, but he did not share it. The U.S. says it would be a mistake and is demanding a plan to protect civilians. Donald Trump took on a controversial issue today, clarifying his position on abortion. The former U.S. president says it's a matter that should be left up to each state.
And whatever they decide must be the law of the land, in this case, the law of the state.
Trump stopped short of calling for a national ban while naming some circumstances where he supports abortion, like rape, incest, and when the mother's life is at risk. The U.S. President Joe Biden was quick to respond.
Donald Trump just endorsed every single state ban on reproductive care nationwide.
The U.S. Supreme Court ruled to overturn Roe v. Wade. Biden pledges to restore it if reelected. The Vatican has affirmed its opposition to gender-affirming surgery and surrogacy. The 20-page declaration endorsed by Pope Francis called both a threat to human dignity. The trans community calls the new doctrine hurtful. After the break, Blue Jays baseball is back. A new season in a new-look stadium in Toronto. The Blue Jays started their summer season in style, squashing Seattle in the home opener.
And a base hit into left field.
The team jumped out to an early lead, maybe inspired by the upgrades to their stadium, meant to give the ballpark a better feel for fans and players. The final score tonight, 5-2. That's a wrap on the day. Thanks for sharing your time with us. We leave you with awesome images of that total solar eclipse that crossed North America. I'm Morella Fernandez. Heather Butts is here tomorrow. Good night.
The moon started shoving the sun away to block it. Then it's going to start getting dark, like it's nighttime.
How incredible is this? It doesn't get any better.
This feels like a combination of Super Bowl, Woodstock, and Christmas morning.
We have the International Space Station flying over right now.
You realize you're kind of like this small being on this rock floating in the cosmos of space.
This is really surreal. I'm very glad to be here.
Best day all school I could have asked for.
Incredible. It was a full body experience.